Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly in the Fridays with Geraldo segment tonight. As you may know, the villain Joran Vandersloot, who we believe was directly involved in the disappearance of Natalie Holloway almost 2 years ago, was caught on an undercover tape saying the woman died in his presence and the body was thrown into the ocean. Now, some believe Aruban authorities have been covering up for Vandersloot. Joining us now from our New York studio, Geraldo Rivera. Do you believe that?
I don't know if the cover-up per se, but there certainly is no desire, it seems, to have this case aggressively pursued. You have there's rage. Let me tell you, let me start that way, Bill. There is real rage in Aruba. I've been on the phone with them all day today about the appellate court's decision to support the lower court judge saying you can't arrest him. The reason the rage is so virulent is that they are using as their rationale the fact that Joran Vandersloot, having told so many different stories, is now untrustworthy when he confesses, as he's doing on the tape that's being shown right now. In other words, at first he says he and the Calpo brothers drive her back to the Holiday Inn where they see a black adult security guard making the moves toward her. Then he says that the Calpo brothers did it. You know, this guy has changed his story so often that the judge says now he's unreliable, therefore you can't trust his confession.
There's no question the guy's a pathological liar and a sociopath. You have to know that if you follow the case. But here's the deal. I watched this tape now 4 or 5 times, his undercover tape by the Dutch journalist. There's no way this guy's making this stuff up. There's no way that this Vandersloot's making this up.
That is why the local authorities, well, not all the local authorities, but certainly the local press and the people in the tourist business, because you remember Aruba's tourist trade is down between 12 and 18% since Natalie Holloway disappeared in 2005. So it's having a real-world impact on the Aruban people. Their rage is at the timidity of the judiciary. But the problem is that they have a tradition, once they arrest someone and release them, that the bar for evidence gets higher every time they go to rearrest.
Here's what they could do and should do. Just go in with it in front of a jury. Let the jury have it. And then if he walks, he walks. Let the folks decide. And here's the other wrinkle. This guy's father is a big shot. This guy's father had juice on that island. This guy Vandersloot was treated from the jump, Geraldo. You know that.
Clearly, I believe that the father is the person that he called. Paulus Vandersloot, in my opinion, is the father he called. But let's dissect what Joran tells Patrick. If indeed the death of Natalie Holloway was, quote-unquote, an accident, then the person you would call would be your dad, the judge. It is natural, if the death is an accident and not a murder, that you'd call your dad. And then he tells the cops later that Deepak and Satish did it. Deepak and Satish tell him in the backseat of the car, who have it on tape, that if they find that girl, you're going to get 15 years. Why didn't he call the authorities if it was an accidental death? And how could he sleep like a baby unless he knew that her body had been disposed of? To think that he would trust a casual friend with the disposal of dead Natalie Holloway and go walk home and then sleep like a baby defies human emotion. It is
okay. Now, I'm not, you know me, I don't speculate, okay? But I'll tell you right now why he didn't call the authorities, the EMS, if the woman had a seizure and died. Because he raped her. Because they slipped some date rape drug inside her. And any kind of an autopsy would have seen the date rape drug. We know this guy had a history of doing this kind of stuff. We know he prowled the casinos. You've been down there, Geraldo. You know what goes on there. They target the tourists, they target the tipsy girls, and they do this, and any kind of an autopsy, any kind of a medical examination would have shown what these guys did to Natalie Holloway.
And he is a big kid. He's well over 6 feet. He outweighs her 2 to 1. There's no doubt in my mind that not only did he drug her, but he also roughed her up, maybe even to the point where he murdered her.
Okay. Now,
but we need some corroborating evidence, because the confession
we need the Aruban authorities to charge him and put him on trial. And I'm not going to Aruba until they do. And I hope everyone around the world watching me says no Aruba until the man gets in and gets on trial. Now, if the jury acquits him, O.J. Simpson, whatever, fine. Charge him. Let the jury decide, or no more Aruba, and every decent person should feel the way that we do. Now, this idiot Cutts, who kills his girlfriend and a baby she was carrying, gets convicted today in Ohio, and he's going to the executed, correct?
Well, I don't know if he'll be executed, but what was remarkable to me is that Bobby Cutts took the witness stand on Monday and faced with the overwhelming evidence that he was the person who killed the mother of his child and the woman carrying his baby. So he says, now, it was an accident. I swung my elbow, hit her in the neck. She died. I panicked. That's why I go and I grab my high school girlfriend and we go and bury her out in the high grass. The reason he's only convicted of murder in her case is that they can't prove Jesse Davis was how she died because Cutts left her body, and it was for over a week. It decomposed, so they couldn't tell if she was strangled or if there was blunt force. They just couldn't tell. The body was too decomposed. But they did get him on aggravated murder of the almost born child because unlike North Carolina, where we see the Marine corporal not charged in the death in the murder of the unborn fetus in that case, in Ohio, if the baby is quick, that is, can survive outside the mother's womb, it is considered another individual. So they got him clearly on aggravated murder of the child, murder of the fiance, the pregnant woman, and they got him on burglary and leaving his child. Remember, he leaves Blake alone. The best witness against him is his own 2.5-year-old son who says, "Mommy's in the rug. Mommy's crying, Daddy's mad." We knew right from the get-go and said on this program that he did it, this
right.
cop
and then he
gone
had the
bad.
nerve to tell people in the courtroom that it was an accident and all of this, and he panicked. Now, this guy's a police officer.
Well, he may save his life with his tears.
Do you really think so? I think he's getting the death penalty. I don't think anybody's going to go for that.
I hope not, but I have to say the jury was out for quite a while. They did have this bifurcated verdict, only aggravated murder in the case of the child, not in the case of Jesse. So I'm not sure. I wouldn't swear to it. We'll know, next week.
But isn't it the judge's prerogative?
I think that no. In Ohio, it's
the jury.
It's the jury. Yeah. The
okay.
jury.
And there's no update on this North Carolina case that you mentioned. This Marine is still at large. He's
still at large. Still, as far as I know, still thought to be in Mexico. He is, Mexican-born, although raised here in the United States. He's a big guy, a big strapping guy. He has all the mannerisms of a quote-unquote Anglo or Yankee or an American. You would think he would stick out like a sore thumb down there. But so far, there has not been. I'm sure they're surveilling his relative's house near Guadalajara in Mexico. But I'm sure the Mexicans want to get him just to look good.
I don't know. I don't know if they do because, remember, there's no extradition because of the death penalty situation.
But we've waived the death penalty. North Carolina authorities have waived the death penalty.
I didn't know that.
In this case. Yeah.
All right, so then there would be an incentive for the Mexicans to get him and ship him back.
I think so.
Goodwill. Geraldo Rivera, everybody. Catch him 8 o'clock Saturday and Sunday. Appreciate it.